It's our jobs to vote for you. But I must tell you, Ms. Bill, that there is great concern about that we have changed the name which is in transit, which means that
Whoa.
We gotta get up for work in a couple of hours. Practice tomorrow. Practice tomorrow. Look here, Sean. If I want
Are they gonna fill Judge Miller's spot?
oh, there we go.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, Judge Giles, they would like to have a meeting with you.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
What they want to approach?
They want to approach, that's what I'm saying, they want to approach. I don't stop meeting.
All right.
They might not want us, we might not be privy to it.
Where's your Zoom number for this company?
Dig that, I hear you. Touche, touche.
439 and all zeros.
We got a prosecutor for Sunday,
4 zeros.
and we got a prosecutor here for Sunday case to step down, talk to his people.
Yeah, you can't get there.
And, I don't
You
think
can approach counsel.
Yeah, thank you, Judge.
Hi, Mr. Winters. How are you?
Well, I
Yeah.
know you all.
No, yeah,
How you doing, Judge?
yeah, that's,
The officer in charge of the case, which is the only remaining witness on this examination, she's a person that was, did both interviews with the defendant, and you had requested that she did both interviews with the defendant. She's the one that you wanted to have testify as to that matter. She was deployed last night to Washington, DC. She's in the Army, and she had told me that on the 15th was the expectancy.
Okay,
Today is the 8th.
I'm in.
Well, turn your systems on mute, please.
That might be. Is that Ms. Sanders? Ms. Sanders? I don't know if that's her.
that's what she said, I'm here.
Judge, she had said that there was a risk that she could get deployed last night, but that wasn't the expectation. I have been communicating with her today, thinking that she's here in Detroit, but then she sent me a text message when I was like, are you in the building yet? She sent me a text message and said, I'm in Washington, DC. She does say that she's capable of zooming in, and that's the status of that.
You said Jones.
How about I see Angie?
Her deployment's until April 2nd.
April 2nd,
It's capital deployment, it's for the capital that she got called in for that. So I knew at the end of last week, there was a risk of it, but that all systems were still go for the 15th as the plan is. And I didn't find out until literally 2:57
I bet you did.
that she in fact did get.
You would never think it this.
She's not on the board yet, she should be on the board soon.
Is that her? That's her.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Do you have any objection taking her testimony via Zoom?
Let me just double check with my client, but I think that should be okay.
Yeah, so right there, Mr. Jones.
Okay, why it popped up me?
That's all the people who dialing in.
Put your systems on mute, please. Every time you open your mouth and say something, we can hear it over here. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Michael. Okay, can hear.
So she's in the.
What's her name?
Last name is Cobb Sanders. His first name, like Joel, J-O-I.
I got a J-O-I in the background.
J-O-I is really her.
He's coming there.
Yes, sir, I remember her.
That's a crack on it, sort of like a. It's a blurry line or whatever you think. They just made me a lead learning from that. Your name's like very, rarely hard, like a management type thing. Yeah, that's the big part of it. You always got things you can get there. I started in 2000, well, as far as in 2007, as far as, projected to so. It sounds like a while ago, but they're up.
Oh, I got it. All right.
Ready on Jones?
Ready? Yeah.
Calling case number 2059435, the people of the state of Michigan versus Tyrone Jones Jr. Defendant is charged with count 1, homicide, murder, first degree premeditated. This matter is scheduled for examination.
Good afternoon, Judge. William Lawrence, P70481 for the people.
Afternoon, Your Honor. William Winters, P35975. We have Mr. Jones.
We just started,
Your Honor, the court had queried earlier, first, Mr. Lawrence advised me that the witness who was who appeared today, the officer in charge of the case, was summoned last night to DC on some type of Army duty. I've explained to Mr. Jones what's happening here. And we would like, Your Honor, to conduct the exam in person. This is a first-degree murder case with a key witness and a key piece of evidence that we ask that matter be conducted live.
Judge, the people cannot produce a live witness today. The officer in charge, Detective Todd Sanders, has Zoom capabilities, is my understanding, from where she's at right now in Washington, D.C. But if the defense is objecting to Zoom testimony, then the people, I don't believe, can, in this situation, stand away. The only problem is that I informed the court earlier, she's on deployment until April 2nd. Now, there were 2 interviews with the defendant. The first interview was conducted by Detective Sanders.
Well,
Sorry.
Let me deal with that issue, first issue, that's a whole different issue.
I know that. I was gonna say, but this, I think, goes with the court's thinking about right now. And that is that there was a separate detective in each interview, but only Detective Sanders in both interviews. So just tossing that out there, that even though she's on leave until that April date, there was another detective in each of the interviews, which might allow for an earlier date.
Oh, okay.
The issue was because she was in each interview and there's a Miranda issue, this court was wanting her to be the witness and not 2 separate detectives.
All right. At this point, the court is going to adjourn the matter over. I believe Mr. Jones does have a right to and the in-person examination. We started that in-person examination. With the witness that was to be called today, she was called away for active duty, military deployment. So,
You have 5 siblings. You will also talk about the four brothers who are black who's white. The four brothers who are black, they go through a similar thing.
April 5th. At 1:30?
1:30?
Yeah, April 5th at 1:30?
Fine. Yes. Yeah, that should work.
Don't talk to me. What time was it, What time was it, April 5th, what time?
1:30?
1:30.
You said April 5th, huh?
Yeah.
All right, for everybody that's on Zoom, that's here in regards to the Tyrone Jones case. That case has been put over to April 5th at 1:30.
You called me last week? You didn't talk to me. Oh, no, okay. Did she say fair enough? Oh, did she say that? Okay. Okay. No, I didn't say that. I know. Yeah, take your time, take your time. Yeah, bring her.
She's gonna break her off. And they can take it down.
And we'll get everybody else in there ready for the next.
How you doing, young? Sorry for your loss.
You want me to hang on to that stuff? Yeah, I'll be the prosecutor. Just get it back to you on that. Probably easy. Where are you at? Thank you very much.
Now, did you get your shot?
There's some people.
Yeah, exactly. I'll definitely confirm that. Yeah, we knew it was a risk. But then I I didn't hear anything.
Did he say April 5th at what time?
I sent a text there, like, I'll be over here at 2, if you want to be there before, and it was okay. Yeah. I'm
We
sure she's
ready
super
for,
busy.
they bringing her up. Keith? Okay. Don't stay clear.
Thank you, Your Honor, thank you, Kitty.
Thank you. Take care.
So now if they matter.
This one.
Yeah, we're ready.
Can I put my shoes on? Oh, yeah. Hey, I was here, I was just thinking, yeah, sit back there. Oh,
Ready.
I think my boots on.
That's her.
She needs
Where's
to
the
talk to him.
prosecutor at?
I was going to get him now.
Okay. You need to talk to your client, you already talked to.
I went down there already.
Okay. Do you mind just keeping your mask pulled up over your nose for me, please? Thank you so much. You okay? I'm good. Mhm. You can bring her out. You ready? Go to that door, straight in. And just wait right there. Ready on Sade Keith. Calling case number 2061079, the people of the state of Michigan versus Sade Keith. Defendant is charged with count 1, homicide, murder, second degree. Count 2, operating while intoxicated, causing death. Count 3, operating license suspended, revoked, denied, causing death. Count 4, child abuse, second degree. Count 5, child abuse, second degree. Count 6, child abuse, second degree. Count 8, operating while intoxicated, occupant less than 16. Count 8, operating while intoxicated, occupant less than 16. Count 9, operating while intoxicated, occupant less than 16. Count 10, operating while intoxicated, occupant less than 16. This matter is scheduled for examination.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Matt, to make a case on behalf of the people, P82796.
And yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. May it please the court, Delphia Burton appearing on behalf of and with Sade Keith. My P number is 47688. We're ready to proceed. We'll move to the question of the matter.
I would just ask for an exception for the officer in charge, police officer David Patrick, who's seated behind me.
Any objection? Any objection? So you want to see your name?
Is he testifying?
He is, yes.
Then yes, I object.
That's fine today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, any non-witnesses testifying today at trial or any future hearing must leave the courtroom or be denied their future testimony.
Your Honor, also,
Once he testifies, you bring it back in.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have a number of people that are currently on Zoom. And you've only seen the 6, I'm seeing about, Okay, let me go through them and we'll see who we got. The gentleman that's on the fire tablet, can you identify yourself, please? Gentleman on the fire tablet, can you identify yourself?
Yes, it's Michael Hicks. Can you hear me?
No.
Hello?
Okay. What is your name?
Michael Hicks.
I got Michael for it. What's the last name?
Hicks, H-I-C-K-S.
Hicks. You a witness?
Here, doesn't ring any bells.
All right, thank you.
just support, Your Honor. Just support.
Okay. First, is that Miss Minnie Hicks?
Yes.
Yes. Minnie Hicks.
Are you a possible witness in this case?
No, I'm not. Miss Auntie.
Okay, thank you. The young lady on the Galaxy A21 says Tina in the leopard blouse. Yep. Unmute yourself. Can you state your name, please?
Tina.
What's your last name, ma'am?
McNeil.
Ms. McNeil, are you a possible witness in this case?
No, I'm not, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you spell your last name, please?
MC, capital N-E-A-R.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The young lady on the phone that says LG Aristo 2. You gotta unmute yourself.
Okay.
All right, ma'am, your name, please?
Adna Gussman, Gussman.
Your first name again, please?
Edna, Edna.
Edna, okay. Ma'am, are you a possible witness in this case?
No, we all her relatives.
Okay. All right, I have to ask, okay? All right, the person that has the phone that says, Mr. Harris, says Reggie Harris. Mr. Harris, can you unmute yourself? Either you have a Reggie Harris as a witness. Okay. The person has the phone that says Leslie.
Okay.
The person that has a phone that says Leslie, not on screen, you just got a blank wall. I need you to identify yourself, please.
Must be an answer, man.
closely on their phone or device, identify yourself, or I'm gonna have to put you out of the Zoom room.
Okay, Tina, is Tina on?
All right. Ms. Jones, it says Danielle Jones.
Yes,
Your name is Danielle Jones, ma'am?
yes,
Okay, and are you a possible witness in this case?
no,
All right, thank you. Person that has the phone that says K51. Can you identify yourself, please? Person that has the phone K51, can you identify yourself, please? Or I'm gonna have to take you out of the Zoom room.
The judge. Did he put you out the courtroom? No, not put you out. Tina phone in y'all name, because when he called Leslie, her face kept popping up. Oh, okay.
Person that has the phone that says Houston Sanderfield. Can you identify yourself, please?
Houston Sanderfield.
Sir, do you have, are you a possible witness in this case?
No, I'm not.
All right, thank you. The person that has the phone that says Ebony HGD. Can you identify yourself, please?
Ebony Holloway.
Is that Holloway?
Yes.
Ms. Holloway, are you a possible witness in this case?
No.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, person that has the phone that says Disja Lyons.
Yes.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Deaja Lion.
Okay. And ma'am, are you a possible witness in this case?
No.
All right. And person on the phone says Kenyatta Nikki Harris.
Yes.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Kenyatta Harris?
Harris, are you a possible witness in this case?
No.
All right. Person on the phone, it just has a phone number, 1-313-655-6932. Can you identify yourself, please?
That's Ian.
All right, person on the phone, 1-313-655-6932. Can you identify yourself, please? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to remove you from the Zoom room. Yeah. All right, person on the phone that says Sharon Shaw, can you identify yourself, please? Person on the phone that says Sharon Shaw, can you identify yourself, please? I'm gonna have to remove you from the Zoom room. Sharon Shaw. on the phone that says Sharon Shaw. Can you identify yourself? All right, any other preliminary issues?
Yes, Judge, people would move to admit people's proposed exhibits 1 and 2 under the sub-rule or Michigan Ohio Law 76611B. Proposed exhibit 1 is an autopsy report that was done in this case on the body of Eric. And the people's proposed exhibit 2 is a laboratory report for the blood screening done by MSP Lab on the blood, which I anticipate will be established as the blood that was drawn from the defendant in this case on the night of the incident.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, at this point, you have no facts that have been established as it relates to anything that has happened. So at this juncture, I do object.
What's the basis for the objection? I mean,
It's not proper. There's nothing that's been, no evidence that's been established that anything has been done.
the documents themselves are evidence, and that's what he's moving to enter.
But my objection is noted for the record.
All right, the objection is noted for the record, so we admit it.
Thank you, Judge. If I may briefly summarize both.
Yes.
In terms of people's exhibit 1, this is a medical examiner report that was done in case number 20-14704. County of death is listed as Wayne, town of death as Detroit, date pronounced death October 5th, 2020. States this is to certify that Carl Schmidt, MD, chief medical examiner, post-mortem examination of the body of Parrish, P-A-R-R-I-S-H, Jones, common spelling, at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office. Under the section summary and opinion, it states, it is my opinion that death was caused by blunt trauma to the head sustained as a passenger in a motor vehicle involved in a collision. Externally, there was open skull fractures over the right parietal, temporal, and occipital regions with exposure of brain matter. Skipping down to the last line, it states the manner of death is accident. And that is signed by Carl J. Schmidt, Chief Medical Examiner, on November 6, 2020.
Okay.
With respect to people's exhibit 2, this is a lab report that was done on lab report number is TX 20-1. Sorry. 2014766. It's record number 1, received October 12, 2020. Evidence received container 1 sealed state police specimen kit containing item number 1, 10 milliliter A-top tube with approximately 6 milliliters of blood. Item number 2, 10 milliliter gray top tube with approximately 5 milliliters of blood. Results of analysis, item number 1, 0.332 grams alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood. States the calculated uncertainty of the alcohol measurement is estimated to be plus minus 0.030 grams alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood at a 99.7% level of confidence. This document was signed by Rachel Perez, forensic scientist, toxicology unit of the MSP laboratory. With that,
Counsel, you viewed both of those documents, right? You've had the opportunity to view both of those documents, right?
I have, Your Honor.
All right, Madam Sam, please.
Hey, Brooke.
Yes, please.
I tried to lessen your hurt.
Put your systems on mute, please. All right, any other preliminary issues?
No, Judge, with that.
Oh, yes, Judge, I do have one other preliminary matter. I was asking for a copy of the information, so it wasn't included in my discovery.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you want to continue to have added another person, and that's Kimberly Snell.
Not familiar.
No. Okay.
With that, you
Right,
can call Latanya Jones, Latanjans Jones.
Civilian witness?
Sorry, Judge.
Civilian witness?
Yes.
Everyone, please put their systems on mute. Ms. Jones, step up this way, please. Okay, how are you? You all right?
Yes, sir.
You not in any kind of pain or anything?
Oh, no.
Well, you may not want to be here.
Oh, it's overwhelming.
Okay. You can raise your right hand. You swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God. All right. You come right over here. Pull the door towards you. Have a seat. All right, Joan, let me ask a series of questions. First by the prosecutor. The defense attorney will probably ask you some questions, and I may or may not ask you some questions. You have to answer all your questions out loud verbally, using words. Just can't shake your head or say, yes, say yes, no, whatever the answer is.
Yes, sir.
Also, when you're asked a question, please just answer that question and stop. If it's a yes or no type question, just say yes or no and stop. Okay?
Yes, sir.
We all have a tendency when we're talking about something that has happened, especially if that event are happening is traumatic to us, we tend to ramble. We'll say this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Kind of go on like that. If you do that, I'm gonna miss something. All right?
Yes, sir.
I know nothing about this case, other than the defendant's name and what she's charged with. And now I know your name. I get all my information from what happens in court, one question, one answer at a time. That way I can understand it, okay? And then last but not least, because of, we're all wearing the mask, the barriers up, I need you to please try to keep your voice up. The microphone is really to your left, you can speak directly into that, and that will amplify your voice.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. If you need to stop,
You need to take a break? Just, just let me know, we'll stop and let you yourself together, okay? All right, thank you.
May I proceed, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, can you state your full name for the record?
Latendra Terrell Johnson.
And
Yes. Terrri, Terrell.
And Michelle, I want to bring your attention back to October 5th, 2020. Where were you in early afternoon that day?
Home.
Okay, who was at home with
Me and my 6 children.
you? Okay, and what are your 6 children's names?
Shatera Jones, Lamaya Cunningham, Mariah Jones, Davion Williams, Parrish Jones, and Johnny Jones.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you to spell those out on a piece of paper later for the court reporter.
Yes, sir.
And just going to skip ahead a little bit. Parrish Jones, how old was he on October 5th?
He was 5.
Okay, and is Parrish still with us today?
No, sir.
Oh. Now, at some point on October 5th, 2020, does a woman by the name of Sade Keith come to your house?
Yes, sir.
And how do you know Miss Keith?
She's a friend. We went to school together.
Okay. When she comes to your house, does she have any children with her?
Yes, sir.
Who are those children?
Her 2 children, and she had some other children with her at the time.
How many total children did she have?
Her 2, and it was 4 more.
Okay, and what time did she come to your house at?
Like 2, well, my baby got 2:45, like almost 3 o'clock.
So 3 o'clock PM that is?
Yes.
On October 5th, 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with Miss Keith's children?
Yes.
How old are they?
I think they were 6, like 6.
Well, bless you, Judge. Call for hearsay.
Maybe 6.
Well, whether or not her personal knowledge. You know, he testified that this, the defendant was a friend, that Ms. Keith was a friend of hers, so she testified that it was her personal knowledge. Did you know? Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Let me go back to the thing. What are Miss Keith's children's names that were at your house on the 5th?
Her daughter name is Layla. I don't know her last name. She does have a son, but I know him as a nickname.
Okay, what's the name?
We call him the Wiggler.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll need that spelling as well. Go ahead.
It's called, we call him the Wiggler.
Okay, and how old is Layla?
6 years old.
Okay, and how old is the child you know by as the Wiggler?
He's 1 year old.
1 year old? And do you see Miss Keith in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to her and identify what color shirt she has on?
She has on green.
Okay, for the record, the witnesses identified the defendant in this case, Miss Keith.
Record story, fine.
Thank you. And when Miss Keith comes to your house, can you tell me what kind of car she was in?
A white Suburban.
Okay, is that a bigger car or a smaller car?
It's a bigger car with a 3rd row seat.
You said a 3rd row seat?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the reason, or when she comes to your house, does she eventually leave your house?
Yes.
Does she leave with any of your children?
Yes.
Which children does she leave with?
My 6-year-old, my 5-year-old at the time, name is Parrish Jones, and my 3-year-old, which is Johnny Jones.
Okay, and they both, correct me if I'm wrong, go in her car, correct?
Yes.
Is that with the 6 other children that she arrived with?
Yes.
How long was she at your house when she got there?
Maybe like 30 minutes.
And when she was at your house, did she actually come in your house? Did you speak with her face to face?
Yes.
How did she seem to you at the time?
She was fine.
Okay, did she seem under the influence of any alcohol or anything?
Leave the witness, leave the witness.
Yeah, leaning.
I'll rephrase the question.
All right.
Did you notice anything out of the ordinary for her?
No.
Oh. After Ms. Keith leaves with your 2 children, does she also take the 6 others?
Yes.
Okay. When is the next time that you saw Parrish Jones?
It's not my race.
Okay, so let's back up. Before that, did you learn of something that had happened with Miss Keith and your children?
I was proceeding home and I ran into the scene.
Okay, so let's stop right there. You said you were proceeding home. Before that, did you leave your house then?
Yes.
Who did you leave your house with?
My daughter,
What's her name?
Shatira Jones.
And how old is she?
She's 15 right now.
Okay, and at what time did you leave your home?
I left my house around 4:30.
Okay, where did you go when you left?
My mom's house.
And did you stay there for a while or did you leave?
No, I was in and out.
Okay, so you said you went to the scene. At what time are you going to the scene?
Proceeding going home no later than 6:30. I made it to the scene at like 7:30.
Okay, and the scene is where? Where is it?
Joy Road and between Artesian. I think it's the next cross street, but it was right off of Artesian.
Joy Road in Artesian?
Yes.
And is that in the city of Detroit, Wayne County?
Yes.
Okay, and when you go to the scene, you said it's before 7 or around 7?
It was around 7:30.
Okay. And so you're there at 7:30. Who are you with when you get there?
Me and my mom.
And did you know prior to going to the scene that you spoke to tell me the song you got.
When I got to the scene, I seen Miss Keith car was just side down. Got out of the car, walked to the police officer and asked the police officer where were the children that was located in that car.
Okay.
The police officer
I'm
asked
gonna
me.
stop you right there. We can't go into, and I don't mean to be rude, we just can't go into what other people say. So I just want to ask you about what you saw and did yourself.
Mhm.
So did you have a conversation with the police officer?
Yes.
And based on that conversation, did you go somewhere else?
To children's hospital.
Okay, so let's go back to the scene. You said you saw Miss Keith's car flip over. How did you know it was Miss Keith's car?
Because when I knew it was her car because it left my house. And it was so overwhelming that when I looked at it, I said, my first words was, oh my God.
And you said it was flipped over. Could you tell me a little bit more about how you saw Miss Keith's car?
It was on, her wheels was in the air.
So it was completely flipped.
Her wheels was in the air.
And did you see Miss Keith at the scene at that time?
No,
Did you see any children at the scene?
I didn't see any children per se, no.
Could you tell me more about children per se? What do you mean by that? Take your time.
Right. Children as of my two.
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
Children as of my two.
Okay, so you didn't see any of your children at the scene?
No.
Okay. You said you went to Children's Hospital then?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
When I get to Children's Hospital, I asked, nurse pulled me to the bed and told me.
That's fine.
When
Let me rephrase, just wait for the question. You got to Children's Hospital, did you have a conversation with a nurse or an employee there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you eventually see one of your children at Children's Hospital?
Yes.
Which child did you see?
Johnny Jones.
Okay. And what kind of state was he in? Was he being attended to by medical personnel or was he just kind of waiting around?
He was being attended to.
Oh. And at some point, do you go to another hospital?
Yes.
And which hospital is that?
It was Sinai Grace.
Okay, and what's the reason that you went there?
to identify my son's body.
And would that be Paris Jones then?
Yes,
And did you identify your son's body?
yes,
And at that time, was your son deceased?
yes.
Okay, one more, Trish.
Sure.
I just want to go back and clarify a few things. You said the Winkler is 1 year old,
Yes,
Layla was 6,
yes,
Parrish was 5,
yes.
and Johnny was how old?
3.
Okay. And now going, what time did you identify your son's body at?
10:30.
Okay, so you got to the scene around 7:38, and then we're at Sinai.
Yes,
And Joy Road and South, is that the city of Detroit, Wayne County?
yes.
I know.
And does we have one more witness line?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ms. Keith?
Yes.
I need you to take a deep breath.
I'm sorry.
Take a deep breath. Blow it out real slow for me. Blow it out slow. Keith, look at me. Look at me. Okay. Deep breath. Blow it out slow. Okay. Breathe. Think about your breathing right now. Okay. All right. I need you to listen. I need you to keep it under control, okay?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, I have to remove you from the courtroom, and I don't want to do that. Okay? Please, take a sip of water. Together now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What's that? Okay. Yeah, no. You need a picture or anything? All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jones. My name is Ms. Virgin, Delphia Virgin, and I represent Ms. Keith. Sometimes I'll speak relatively fast. If I do, just ask me to repeat the question.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you and Ms. known each other since high school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So about how many?
Maybe, been out of school since 2008.
Okay, so 17.
Yeah, almost 27 years.
Okay. Anyway, back in October of 2020, you consider her to be a good friend of yours? Okay. And that day, you said it was about 3 o'clock that she arrived at your residence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what street would that be on, ma'am?
It's Vaughn Street.
And what are your cross streets? In terms of the traveling, there's another person that's gonna talk about, they followed her, and so I wanna know when she left her house, and the distance between that location is relatively close by.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, we're not there yet. You can get that from the other person. You said that there's another witness that followed her, you can get from how, where she followed her from North Point to West.
Okay, all right, but you're on Vaughn Street, that's fair to say? Okay, and she arrived at your house about 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yes.
How long did she stay?
About 45 minutes.
About 45 minutes? Now, you indicated that she came with 6 children, or she came with 4 children, and then she had her 2?
She had her 2 children and 4 other children with her.
Okay, before she got to your house? I mean, when she got to your house?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And your 2 children went along as well?
Yes.
Okay. And did you observe Ms. Keith actually get in the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, and take off?
Mm-hmm.
And you felt okay with allowing?
Yes.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. And you felt okay with allowing your children to go with her at that point?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you had gone to your mom's house, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. And then you ended up back on Joy Road?
Yes.
Okay. You said something to the effect that I knew she had been to my house.
Okay.
All right, so how did you know that?
I have cameras.
Okay, so you had some cameras that show her at your location?
Yes.
Is that information that's still available?
Yes.
Did you turn that over to the prosecutor?
I sure will.
Okay, you will. Okay, thank you. And what you observed on the cameras, what was her demeanor?
Okay, wait, at what point are we talking about?
You said she was on the cameras right before the accident. Is that what you're indicating?
She was, yes.
Okay, about what time did you make these observations on?
My camera?
Yes.
6:38.
6 what?
6:38.
6:38. And can I ask you, what did you observe Ms. Keith do at that time?
She came to my house. She knocked on the door. My son, he was inside of my house.
Did she have contact with anyone?
No, because no one was there.
Well, you said the son was inside, he just didn't.
My door, at the time, my door wasn't fixed at the time of her coming inside my house. So the door, you could push the door open, but I have cameras that I can hear and see everything.
Okay, so you
I heard my son inside the house, I heard her say my name, she was looking for me.
okay. And how long did she stay inside of your house?
She wasn't there no more than 5 minutes.
Okay. Do you know what she was wearing?
Some black pants.
Do you have stairs to your location?
Yes.
Or did you see her go up the stairs?
Yes.
Okay, did she stumble up the stairs?
No.
She leaves your house after you say about 5 minutes. Okay. Do you see her go back to her vehicle?
Yes, my camera has all of that.
The camera captures all of that?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see how many, are there any children who get out of the vehicle at that point?
My two.
Okay. And do they go in the house with the key?
I see, Parrish goes inside the house. My 3-year-old was playing inside the yard. And I hear Parrish say, come on. My son has a nickname, which is it's not now. So he said, Parrish says, come on now, we gotta get back in the car.
Okay. And so you observed all 3 of them get back in the car? In the white truck?
Yes.
Okay. Where were you when you were making these observations on your phone?
At home.
I mean, like how far from home?
I was probably I was riding up Dre Road.
So you rode past the accident?
No.
Okay.
I proceeded to the accident. I was coming from Dre Road. I don't get on the freeway, so I drive up Dre Road to take home straight shots on the house.
Okay, and you
So
say
I got to Dre Road and Greenfield.
okay. And you're traveling in which direction? Are you on Dre Road?
Yes.
Are you going towards Evergreen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you're going west?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have anyone that's in the vehicle with you?
My daughter.
Oh, yeah, okay. 15-year-old?
Yes.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep telling me what math. So, you leave, I mean, you pass the scene, or you get to the scene, right? By the time you get there, that's enough.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
There's no one that's there. No, well, he's not there, your children are not there.
No.
How long do you actually stay on the scene?
I think I was there for maybe 20 minutes. Up until one of the officers.
Is this the first time that this people taking your children home?
No.
You take them on a regular basis?
We do activities with the children.
Weekly, bi-weekly?
Maybe once a week, every 2 weeks. It depends on if she didn't have to work or not.
Ms. Jones, how often would you say that you were around Ms. Keith? Couple times a week?
Objection, Ronald.
Let me just ask a question, Judge. Well, Do you know whether or not she is a diabetic?
Not from my knowledge.
You don't know one way or another?
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right, thank you. And that's her.
Just a couple of questions, Ms. Jones. When you were observing this on the cameras, you said that was at 6:38?
That's on my camera, yes.
Okay, and do you know your camera to be accurate in terms of time?
Yes.
Okay. You said you saw, you said you saw the three of them, Miss Keith, your two children outside the car. Do you see any children inside the car? If you can see it.
Not from, I have to look, but I don't think I can see in the inside of the car.
Okay, to the best of your memory.
I don't think I can see it inside of the car.
Okay, and then, you said she was there for 5 minutes, correct? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you. Not good.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. You can sit down.
Yes, there's people called Martez Gibbs, Deputy Martez Gibbs.
Please put your device on mute.
We have, hold on, we got some other folks on. Gordon Hawkins on. Now witness.
Not the witness.
All right.
Thank you. You state your full name for the record, sir?
Martez Gibbs.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a deputy sheriff, Lonely County Sheriff.
Okay. You said they're told of it?
Yeah, that's right.
I want to take your attention back to October 5th, 2020. Were you in the city of Detroit that day?
Yes.
Who were you with?
With my girlfriend, Tiffany.
And what's her last name?
McCullough.
Okay. Were you in the area of Joy Road and Stalin in the city of Detroit, Wayne County?
Yes.
Approximately what time were you in that area?
I would say probably like after 4-ish or so. Can't remember exactly what time it was.
Okay. And silly question, but were you working or were you off duty?
No, I was off there. I was going to my sister's house. She stays over there.
Okay. Now, in that area, did you see something that brings you to court to testify today?
Yes.
Could you tell me what you were doing, where you were right before you saw this?
All right, I was traveling down Telegraph, turned on the Joy Road heading east. There was a white SUV originally behind me. White SUV ended up passing me. In front of me, I noticed white SUV had several kids inside.
Okay, so I don't mean to be rude, but let me stop right there. You said originally the white SUV was behind you. Do you know what kind of car it was?
So,
do you know what kind of car? What kind
I want to like it's like either Tahoe or Suburban type vehicle.
Okay, bigger car? Is it a bigger car?
Yeah, it's a bigger car. Yes.
Okay. Now you said the car passed you. How fast were you traveling at that time?
I probably was going probably around maybe 35 or so miles an hour, maybe 35 or 40.
Do you know the speed limit on driving?
I do not. I think it is around there though.
Let me stop right there. While we're testifying, make sure that you let me finish the question.
Oh, okay.
And then you answer, okay? So we get a clear record and face the court for a job. So if you know, do you know the speed limit on Joy Road in that area?
No.
Oh. You said you were going approximately 35 miles per hour. How fast did the car pass you? The white SUV that is.
I said that probably come past me around maybe 50 miles an hour or so.
Okay. After the car passes you, or while the car is passing you, do you notice anything inside the car or anybody inside the car?
Yes, I know there's several kids in the back seat playing with balloons.
Okay, was there anybody in the front passenger seat?
I didn't notice anyone in the front passenger seat.
Okay, and you said the kids were in the back seat playing with balloons?
Yes.
Is that, do you mean by back seat just the first row, or is there a second row of the back seat too? If you remember.
It had to be maybe second row. They turned around and looked out of the window at one point.
Okay. Could you tell from, you said these kids were playing with balloons, could you tell if they were standing up, sitting down, buckled in or not?
It looked as if they were kneeling on the seat. How they turn around and kneel on the seat, our kids will put their knees on the seat and look back. So they were not secure.
Okay. All right, now as this, you said this car goes past you, as this car is past you, what's ahead on the road?
I'm sorry.
What is ahead of you on the road? Are you coming up to a stop sign?
Yes, oh, no, we're coming to a stoplight.
Okay. When this car's passing you, can you see the stoplight?
Yes.
Could you tell if it was red or green or yellow at the time?
It was green at the time.
Okay. As you get closer to the stoplight, do you know what intersection that is?
I want to say artesian. I'm not for sure though.
Okay. As you get closer to this intersection, does that stoplight change color?
Yes.
How far away from the stoplight were you in your car when it changed to red, I'm assuming?
When it changed to red, how far away was I?
Well, that's it, Judge. He's going to lead the witness, let the witness testify to the pattern and order of the lights. It might have been yellow.
That's fine, Judge. That's common sense. Anyway, whatever. I'll rephrase the question.
Thank you.
You said the light was green. Does it change a different color?
Yes, it turned to yellow, yes.
And then does it change after yellow to another color?
It changed to red, yes.
Okay. When it changed to red, how far away were you from that stoplight?
I would say maybe good 50, 60 feet from it. I was very good stopping distance from it.
Okay. How far away was the white SUV from?
A little bit ahead of me. So how about 50? She had probably 20 or so.
Still within stopping distance?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay. At some point, does something happen after that right turns red, that you observe?
Yeah, the white SUV continued to go through the light.
Okay. What color was the light when the white SUV went through it?
Red.
And what happened when the white SUV went through the red light?
A car came from the north, that would be artesian, and clipped the back end of the SUV, causing it to spin, and then it rolled twice. And a young man or child was ejected.
Okay. After you see.
I'm sorry, Judge, I missed that last part. Young
You said a
man.
young man, you changed it to a child. Was ejected.
Okay. Now.
Ejected from where?
The vehicle, can't tell you what window came out of.
Which, the two vehicles?
Oh, the white vehicle. The white vehicle.
The white SUV.
Yes, the white SUV, yes.
The child that was ejected, was that one of the children that you had seen in the white SUV moments earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Now, after that happens, what do you do?
Stop my vehicle, have my girlfriend call it in, tell her what she got and, who I am, and I immediately ran up and started rendering aid. The car was on its top, so I, noticed a, child, with blood on its face, trying for me to pick it up, and I would not put him, but another child on the ground, then I noticed a child inside of the SUV. She had on a pink, like fleece type jacket, and she was crying and she was saying, "Mama, mama." And I told her to come with me, and I pulled her out of the window, put her on the side, and, once I did that, a gentleman walks up to me and says,
Let me stop right there. We don't want to get into what other people said. I just want to ask you.
oh, he asked me something. That's why.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go back a little bit. When you were approaching the car, the child that was ejected, where's that child?
The curve of the road.
How far from the resting point of that car is that child that was ejected?
Say maybe just 30 feet or so, that's something more.
Okay, did you have a chance to observe that child?
Yes.
And what was that child saying at that time?
Deceased.
How did you know that?
Its head was exposed, brain was there, not moving, It was clear.
Oh, and did you do anything with the child's body in terms of, did you do anything?
I covered it with my raincoat from my apartment.
Oh. Now, after you saw that, did you approach the car, the white SUV?
Yes.
Okay, and when you approached the car, how many children were in that car?
In the car, only the one at the time was just a little girl. Others were outside the car by that time.
Okay, and was there a driver in the car?
Yes.
Was there any other adults other than, was the driver an adult?
Yes, the driver was one of the, yes.
Was there any other adults in the car that you saw at any point?
No.
Oh, and I know this happened a long time ago, but do you see the driver of the car in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to her and identify what she's wearing?
Green jail scrubs.
Okay, for the record, the witness has identified the defendant, Ms. Sade Keith, in this case. Now, you said two of the children were already outside the car, one was inside the car, correct? What did you do with the child, if anything, that was still inside the car?
I just told her to come with me. I just put her out, that's all.
Okay. And in terms of the age of this child, are you able to estimate the age? Let me ask another question. I see the objection, understand. Are these children, based on your experience and observing kids, are all these children under the age of 18?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Okay. Now, have you ever met these kids or anybody in this before? No. Okay. After you remove the one child from the car, where do you take that child, that girl?
Oh, just to the sidewalk, that's all.
Okay. And do you do anything with the driver of that car?
No.
All right. How long, at some point, does EMS or police show up?
Definitely, yes.
How soon after you're there do EMS come?
Within a couple of minutes, maybe.
And did you make any observations of the driver while on the scene?
Not right, I just saw her standing with police.
Did you see where the driver went, or let me back up? How long did you stay on the scene?
Once PD arrived and dumped on everything, and the kids were fine, I left.
Was the driver of the car still there when you?
Yes, she was outside of the vehicle.
Okay. Was EMS on the scene?
Yes, yes.
And were the kids still on the scene?
Yes, yes.
The child that you pulled out of the car, did you observe any injuries on her?
I did not.
The child, you said two kids were outside the car.
Yes.
When you got to it. Did you observe any injuries on them?
Yes.
Tell me about injuries on, was it a boy and girl?
You know, I don't know if they were boys or girls, believe it or not, I was supposed to know, I couldn't really tell. They were, face was covered in blood and things of that sort, so, that's why there were two children.
Did both the children outside the car have blood on their face?
Yes, yes.
In one moment, Jim?
Yeah.
The other car that came out on Artesian, did you see where that car went at all?
Straight across. I never seen the driver, never talked to him, they just went straight across.
What, can you describe that car?
It was a, believe it or not, black Suburban or Tahoe, the same type of vehicle, just a different color.
You said that one was a black car?
Yes, it's black, yes.
And to the best of your memory, what time did you see the accident at?
After 4, about that 5 to 10.
Okay, no problem. Did this all happen in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
County? Yes. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Another further.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Ms. Gibbs. Fine, thank you. My name is Ms. Burton. Sometimes I speak fast. If I do and you don't understand, just let me know. I'll rephrase it or repeat it. Okay, so you're traveling eastbound.
Yes.
On Joy Road. At what point do you notice the white vehicle, white SUV?
Oh, I noticed it in my rear view.
Okay. And where would you have been at when you noticed it?
I was just on Joy Road, been on Joy Road for not too long after turning off a Telegraph. So exactly where I could not tell you.
Okay, but it's somewhere between Telegraph and
Artesia? Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay. About how, first you see the person behind you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I believe you testified that the vehicle comes around you.
Yes.
Okay, and you're talking to your girlfriend as you're driving?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. When the vehicle comes around you, you remain behind the vehicle?
Oh, yes, we can, yes, 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 it just passed me, yes.
Okay. And how far would you say you traveled behind that vehicle?
How far did I travel behind it?
Yeah, half mile, a mile?
Maybe about at least 2 car lengths, at least 2 car lengths behind it, for sure.
Okay, that's the distance between you and the car.
Yeah.
What I'm asking is how.
For about a mile or so, yes, about a mile.
About a mile?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and within that mile, would it be fair to say that there were some street lights?
Were there some street lights, meaning pole lights and things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a light?
Yeah.
Okay,
And you saying street lights, are you talking about street lights or traffic lights?
I'm sorry. That's what I meant, traffic light.
Oh, okay, yeah. The traffic light, the only traffic light was the one that at the intersection of our Artesian at that time, yes.
Okay, did you go past Westwood?
I couldn't tell you the streets over there. I could not tell you. I do not know.
Okay. Did you review any paperwork before testifying today?
Yes.
What did you review?
My statement.
So you said that you were doing, I think you said between 35 and 40 yourself.
Yes.
You didn't observe anything unusual when you were traveling behind that vehicle. Before we get to Artesia, the distance that you say was maybe a mile?
Yes.
You didn't observe anything unusual about that vehicle traveling in front of you, correct?
Just the children that were not secure, that's it.
Okay, but the vehicle itself, the vehicle wasn't swerving?
No, not swerving.
Okay. You approach Artesian as you're traveling eastbound on Joy Road, right? And you notice that there's a light, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And as the white SUV is approaching the light, is the yellow turning red?
Yes. Yes.
Were there other vehicles on the side view?
Not on the side of me, no. There was a vehicle behind me.
Was there behind?
Yes.
Once you observed the accident, you indicated that you went over to the white SUV.
Yes.
All right. And you had an opportunity to observe the driver, correct?
Not originally. I was focused on the kids. I didn't observe the driver until later.
Okay, but how much time would you say had lapsed between the accident and time you observed the driver? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Probably about 10 minutes or so, I was gonna say.
Was the driver in the vehicle when you approached the vehicle?
When I approached the vehicle, yes, the driver was in the vehicle, yes.
Okay. Did you inquire as if people were all right, what have you?
I didn't inquire about the driver. I only focused on the kids. I saw the kids. The line of work I do, I'm gonna go to the kids first, then we'll deal with anybody else later.
Okay, so tell me the amount of contact that you've had with the driver.
None.
Just observations?
Yep.
moment, sir.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. How many more witnesses do we have?
3, Judge.
3 more?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, give me offer approved.
Judge, the next witness is, just stay in a second, 1 second, sir. The next witness is the driver of the other car, the black SUV that came through the intersection. And then after
What
that,
do I need him for? What, and why do you need him for purposes of probable cause?
well, Judge, for purpose of probable cause, I think you can provide vital testimony as to him having the green light.
All right, we already got that.
Okay, and then after that is the OIC, Officer Patrick, who's going to testify to the chain of custody for the blood draw
Okay.
from the hospital to him seeing it done, taking it to custody, and then sending it to MSP and then receiving the lead back, as well as the defendant's driving record.
Okay.
And then the other one, who's actually not, he's on call right now, but will be coming when the next witness begins testifying. We just started Paul Warner, who's going to testify to the CDR downloads of the vehicles that were involved in the crash, which is the black box, so it's to show how fast they were actually.
Okay. All right. The 2, I don't need the third, I don't need the first one. I don't need the driver of the black SUV. Because all he's gonna testify to is what I've already heard
Okay.
from the Deputy Gibb. All right, so you can go straight to the
OIC.
OIC then.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. You call administration for me. And then we're gonna go over.
No, sorry.
Again, you got our time, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do. May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
State your full name for the record, sir.
Corporal David Fitzpatrick,
Corporal, what do you do for a living?
I'm a reserve police officer and investigator for Fatal Squad.
And what does Fatal Squad investigate?
All fatal related to car crashes in the city of Detroit.
Okay, I want to take you back to October 5th, 2020. Were you assigned to investigate a fatal car crash that day?
Yes, it was.
Where did that car crash occur?
Joy and Artesian.
Was that in the city of Detroit, Main County?
Yes, it is.
And did you go to that scene?
Yes, I did.
And how long were you at the scene for?
Several hours.
Did you observe that scene and take notes of that scene?
Yes, I did.
What did you observe?
There was a 2 vehicle involved accident. That was a white GMC Yukon versus a black GMC Yukon. The white one had flipped over and there was materials in the car spilled up in the road.
Okay, and any materials that were in the car of note to you?
Yes, there are several empty beer cans and a bottle of whiskey.
And were those in the car or outside the car?
They were in the car and strewn about the car.
Okay. And did you make any other observations at the scene at that time?
I believe at that point, the deceased was still on scene as well.
Okay, and where the deceased, were you able to identify at some point through the investigation the name of the deceased?
Yes.
What was that name?
Paris Jones.
Okay, and you said that, was that an adult male, child?
Child.
Okay. Was his body still on the scene when you got there?
I believe so. I think they were just in the process of removing it at the time.
Okay, you know where his body went?
I believe it was to one of the hospitals.
All right. Now, after being at the scene, did you go to a hospital yourself?
Yes, I did.
Which hospital did you go to?
The Joint Receiving Hospital.
And did you see anybody that you at some point were to be involved in the crash at that time?
Yes, I did. The defendant saw the key.
And do you see her in the parking today?
Yes, I do.
Could you point to her and identify what color shirt she's wearing?
She's in the bench by the wearing a green shirt.
For the record, witnesses identified Ms. Keith, the defendant in this matter? Okay, and what was the purpose of you going to the hospital?
To get a blood draw and search warrant.
Okay, and did you get both of those things?
Yes, I did.
And when you got there, had you instructed, or to your knowledge, had someone else instructed officers to wait on Ms. Keith to stay with us?
Yes, I did.
And was that done?
Yes.
Were there officers waiting there when you got there?
Yes, there were.
And what was the purpose of that?
To make sure she remained in custody at the hospital for the blood draw.
Okay. And what time was the blood draw completed, if you know?
To check my notes.
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes, it would.
Do you have your notes with you, or do you?
Yes, I have it right here.
Please take a look at your notes and then look back up at me when you're ready.
Blood draw was done at 9:40.
9:40 p.m. on October 5th, 2020?
Yes.
Okay, and did you yourself observe that blood draw being done?
Yes, I did.
And did you take custody of the blood draw kit after it was completed?
Yes.
And did you or someone else, did you observe someone else seal that kit?
I sealed it myself in front of the nurse.
Okay, is that standard procedure?
Yes.
Did you do anything else with that kit?
Put it in the mailbox to be sent to the MSP laboratory.
And just to be clear, that kit, as we're calling it, contained the defendant's blood that you saw being drawn?
Yes, 2 vials.
Okay. And you said you sent that to MSP laboratory?
Correct.
And is that standard procedure sending it through the mail?
Yes.
Did you get a report back from MSP lab?
Yes, I did.
Hey, one moment, George. Sure. May I approach you as a witness? Just to show them the report and confirm that this is.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I'm handing you what's been admitted as People's Exhibit 2. Is that the report you received back in this case?
Yes, it is.
And does that contain the defendant's name on it?
Yes, it does.
Oh. I'll take that back. Now, did you also investigate whether the defendant had a valid driver's license?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
Through the law enforcement information network.
Okay, and is that the system that in your experience provides reliable information as to whether someone's licensed or has a suspended license?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and what did you find out about Ms. Keith's driving record?
That she does not have a valid license.
Okay, and is there a couple different, was her license suspended or did she ever get a license?
I have to check the records for that.
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes, it would.
Is your memory refreshed, sir?
Yes, it is.
Did she have a license or ever get a, did she ever get a license or was her license suspended?
She has a expired and suspended temporary instructor's permit,
Okay,
so she never got a full license.
all right, but the temporary instructor's permit was suspended,
Yes,
and because of that suspension, was she allowed to be driving anyhow?
no, she was not.
And just to be clear, that license was suspended on October 5th.
Well,
2000
objection, Your Honor, we can't.
I couldn't hear what you said. You
I'm
tried
sorry.
to, your head.
I apologize, she was calling me, I said objection, he's leading the witness.
I was just clarifying that on that date and time. I can rephrase it.
Yeah, just rephrase it. And she had what kind of license, or had at one point?
A temporary instructor's permit.
Instructor's permit?
It's a learner permit.
Learner permit.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, what did the judge do? I'm sorry, Judge.
I'm gonna rephrase the question.
You can rephrase.
Rephrase the next question. I asked another question, just to clarify what kind of license your client did have at one point, which was a temporary learner permit. And then that was suspended.
On October 5th, 2020, was she allowed to be driving a car?
No, she was not.
Another question.
Good afternoon, Corporal Fitzpatrick.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so you, arrived on the scene, how long after you got the call?
2 or 3 hours.
So when you arrived, Ms. Peak wasn't on the scene?
No, she was not.
Okay. Who was still on the scene when you got there?
The officers, the deceased, the scene was blocked off.
Okay. Okay, and so the observations that you made of the vehicle, you said there were some bottles or cans?
Bottles.
Okay. And were those in they were on the outside of the vehicle, is that fair to say?
They were both inside and on the outside of the vehicle.
Okay. Inside in the back?
The vehicle was flipped over, so I couldn't tell you where they would be positioned on the vehicle, but they were inside the passenger compartment of the vehicle.
Inside the passenger compartment?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't see anything where the driver was, is that fair to say?
As I said, the vehicle was flipped over.
Yes or no?
No.
So you yourself sought out an affidavit for a search warrant affidavit, correct?
Yes.
All right. And at the time, you weren't able to ask any questions because Ms. Keith was at the hospital, correct?
Never objected to the relevance.
Just,
Okay, wait a minute.
it's relevant, because that's the thing.
Hold on, I'm gonna give you a chance. I just wanna make sure I understand what he's objecting to.
Oh.
Okay, because you asked about the affidavit, and then you went to ask about, you weren't able to ask questions.
Because that's in the affidavit.
Okay, when you say ask questions, you're talking about ask questions of the defendant?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now, what's the objection?
My objection to the relevance, it seems that this person is going into an area that is a seizure issue, which is not in front of this court right now, and we're going to call on later.
Judge, it goes to the veracity of this particular witness, the credibility, if it's something that's not truthful in the affidavit that he filed against the search warrant, then certainly I'm allowed to challenge that, because he's testifying today. You have to assess his credibility.
Well, the issue of the search warrant, even at this point, is still in question. It's always relevant. I think, honestly, I'll rephrase it. I don't mean to say the same question. It's relevant. Now, you can only challenge the four corners of that search warrant. So her challenge in this court is very limited. So as long as it's within the four corners of that search warrant, I'm gonna allow it.
Thank you. All right, and so have you had opportunity to review the search warrant today, sir?
Not yet.
But not yet,
Not yet.
but you're familiar with it.
I'm familiar with the process, yes.
Okay, okay,
I don't know exactly what it was.
all right. And under number 12, you indicated, the suspect, you believe the suspect might have been under the influence because of some bottles inside the car, correct?
I would have to see the document, sure.
Yes, ma'am. Take a minute.
Yes, it does.
So that was the only thing that you faced your suspicions on, correct?
For that one time, yeah.
Okay. And,
I didn't hear you answer.
For that document, yes.
Okay.
okay. Now, under number 14, did you read number 14 when I showed you?
Yes.
Okay. It indicates that whether or not the person has diabetes or hemophilia, correct?
Correct.
And you indicated that you informed the person of this information, correct?
Okay.
Ms.
You gotta
Ms.
clarify your
Keith,
question.
Ms.
You
Keith.
informed who?
You informed Ms. Keith that a person that was afflicted with hemophilia or diabetes, or a condition requiring the use of an anticoagulant under the direction of a physician shall not be considered to have given consent. That the suspect did not indicate that he or she has a affliction, nor has he indicated any other medical problems which would be experienced by a blood sample. You didn't need to talk to her, correct?
No, I did not.
All right. And did you talk to the medics on the scene?
I talked to the medics and several officers on the scene.
Okay, and you reviewed documents relating to this case, correct?
Yes.
And did you come to find out she did have diabetes?
No, I did not.
You said you reviewed the EMS report?
And now at the time I didn't.
Okay, but what about, okay, did you subsequently learn she had diabetes?
No, I did not learn that until today.
You said you were familiar with these documents? EMS medical reports?
I am familiar with the documents, not those specific documents.
Did you prepare a package for the prosecutor in terms of gathering this discovery time?
Yes.
So are you indicating, for me personally, that you've never seen this document?
I've seen it.
You want to make sure, we're going on to something else now, right?
We're going on to her having diabetes, which I think is a
Okay.
significant impact in terms of what we're going with the case in terms of the glucose level. So,
Okay, hold on, let's go on to something else, because we were at a preliminary challenge of the search warrant. So we've gone past that, correct?
okay.
I just want to make sure.
I'm
asking.
moving fast because I know we have time.
You know, I'm asking, I'm not pushing you in one way or the other.
Okay.
You know, but I'm asking, I want to make sure I understand. So when I hear your question, I understand, and I know what to listen for.
Okay, so, under the, back up for clarity, we got the search warrant. There was no indication that you had even talked to Ms. Keith about her medical condition, correct?
No, I did not.
But you checked that, but you had not advised her one way or another, correct?
No, I did not.
And you said you did or did not have an opportunity to talk to the EMT?
There were EMTs there, but not the EMTs that transported your client.
But she was already gone by the time you got there, 2, 3 hours later, right?
Correct.
Okay. But did you review the information regarding her vitals?
You mean that document there before I looked search warrant? No, I did not.
No, we're gonna be past the search warrant. Did you review the information regarding her vitals?
Yes.
Okay, and that she was alert? Thanks for.
Wait. I need a time frame. Did you review the information regarding her vitals?
Her vitals taken on 10/5/2020, at 18:39.
Do you have the information at that time?
This wasn't regarding the search warrant, Judge. We passed the search warrant.
I know, but I still need to know when,
Oh.
when, because it's an open-ended question, you know, he's the officer in charge.
Mhm.
He could have reviewed that today and find out, know what the vitals were now, but the issue is, I need to know when he knew.
Okay, when did you know?
About those vitals, it would be today when you just showed it to me.
So, you never saw this, or you just didn't care?
It's, documents was pulled as a part of our packet, does not mean we reviewed before we sent it.
But you're the one that has prepared the investigator's report, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you have asked this information before you prepared your investigator's report?
Typically, no. It depends on the speed and duration of the person who handles those reports.
So you don't know when you got it?
No.
You know, just, this can't come in as a medical record, EMT medical record, and I'd like to admit it as a defense exhibit. Or A, proposed exhibit A.
What, for
purpose of showing, disputing the fact of her vitals on that night, right after the accident, blood pressure, the whole conversation with the EMT said she was alert. So there are a number of things that refute this high blood level that they're referring to. It also indicates she has diabetes, which of course is a factor in her defense.
Yeah, this is just as to the mission of that night.
No, Judge.
Right, you minute.
Judge, before you report board remarks, I just see a lot of highlighting on the one. I do have a clean copy.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's true.
It's already on it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, sorry. You doing A? Thank you. So actually, I can just, publish it to the court.
All right.
One moment, John. So I'm gonna back up a moment. Corporal Fitzpatrick. I think you said it was 9:40 at the time of the blood draw?
Yes.
What time was the first one?
I'm sorry, what was the question? What was the question?
What time was the search warrant issued?
I'd have to see the actual document to say what kind of was issued.
I'm sorry, Judge. I had some. I had it. I hope you're. That's okay, I'll move on from there, Judge. Let me see if my client has anything further. I have nothing further.
Yes, may I approach the search warrant, Judge?
Sure.
I'm handing you the document. Is that the search warrant, sir?
Yes,
That we've been speaking of?
yes,
And on the last page of that search warrant, is it signed by a judge?
yes, it is.
Which judge?
Magistrate Ortega.
Is she a magistrate in the 36th District Court?
Yes, she is.
And is there a time and date indicated that she signed that?
Yes, October 5th, 2020 at 8:36 p.m.
Okay, and we talked about your observations indicated on there of beer bottles in and around the car, correct?
Correct.
Is there anything else in there that you relied on to, for probable cause, or that you indicated to the judge that you submitted to the warrant to be signed by the judge?
Yes, item 13, Corporal Wright, he said the defendant seemed dazed and incoherent upon the scout's arrival.
Okay, and let's talk about section 14 that's checked off. What does that say again, that the applicant informed the defendant of something?
Yes, the person afflicted with hemophilia, diabetes, or a condition requiring anticoagulants.
Okay, now at that time that you checked that off, had you talked to the defendant?
No.
Had someone talked to the defendant?
Yes, the officers who first responded and the officers who transported her.
Had anybody informed you that they had informed the defendant of that section?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Now, with that being checked off, is there a reason you checked that off?
Yes, because if someone has those conditions, they cannot consent to a blood draw. And it's always policy that we advise them if they're going to, if we're going to do a blood draw, that we advise them or because we never do a consensual blood draw.
Was she advised of that?
Yes, she was.
By whom?
Myself, the 1 week arrived at the hospital.
Okay, I'm confused. You need to help me here, because you said that you didn't talk to her.
Upon preparing the document, no. When I got to the hospital and we prepared to do the blood draw then.
So you prepared that document first before talking to her?
Yes.
And you checked that out?
Yes.
And then after it was signed by the judge, you then talked to her?
Yes.
And did you inform her of that section 14?
Yes, when I was getting the blood draw done.
And was that before the blood draw?
Yes.
And when you did that, did she inform you that she had any of those conditions?
No, she did not.
And had she informed you, would you have continued with the blood draw?
Yes.
Why?
Because the search warrant was approved and we're consensual based blood draw.
Okay, so that section then just just deals with consent of the defendant, correct?
Correct.
And consent, as you know, is different than probable or a search warrant.
Correct.
Judge, for the record, I'm just going to wait for this. If that's okay.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Also, sorry. And just a couple more questions, sir. You referenced the passenger compartment on cross-examination. Remember that question?
Yes.
What do you mean by passenger compartment?
Where we would sit in the vehicle. So driver
seat, back seat as well?
Yes.
Okay. And the beer bottle or the bottles, alcohol bottles that you saw, were they on, the car was flipped over, correct?
Yes.
So they would have been on the ground on the roof of the car?
Correct.
Oh. Okay.
Briefly about the stuff that's spewing about in the vehicle. There's some stuff out of the vehicle. There were clothes that was thrown about, correct?
I believe so.
Did you see a black garbage bag?
I do not recall.
Okay, did you see a swimming pool? blow up swimming pool?
Do not believe so.
Did you see any balloons?
I do not recall. I know there's items.
There were other items though, correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Doctor.
All right, thank you, step down. Any last one?
Sergeant Paul Warner.
Yes. That's correct.
You swear or affirm the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Did you say your full name for the record?
Paul Warner.
Sir, where do you work currently?
I work for the City of Detroit Police Department. Currently, squad leader of Fatal Squad.
And what does Fatal Squad investigate?
Fatal Squad is a unit that investigates all fatal, critical accidents and operating while intoxicated felony offenses.
Okay, and that would be referring to driving, car crashes.
That is correct.
Oh, Sergeant, I want to take your attention back to October 5th, 2020. Were you made aware of a car crash in the city of Detroit at Joy Road and Artesian?
Yes.
And what role did you have in investigating that crash?
I responded to the scene and did the on-scene investigation with my team members.
Okay, and at some point, did you do a crash data retrieval of two cars or assist in the crash data retrieval of two vehicles involved in the crash?
I was present for that. Yes.
Okay, who actually did it?
Detective Besso.
Okay, Detective Besso, let me start with yourself. Are you trained to do that?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your training for that.
For a crash data retrieval, I took a course through Michigan State Traffic Safety Program. I also took an analyst class from IPTM this past summer, which allows me to analyze the reports that are generated by a vehicle.
Okay, and so you've had experience doing this before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, explain to the court, or for the record briefly, what crash data retrieval is and how it works.
Crash data retrieval is a hardware and software program that allows officers or investigators in private settings to connect to supported vehicles to look for reports of non-deployment or deployment events.
Okay, and the difference between a non-deployment and deployment event?
A non-deployment and a deployment is based on airbag deployments, meaning a non-deployment is where the airbag did not go off, but the vehicle still wrote a report.
Okay. Now, in this case, or sorry, a couple more questions about CDRs. What type of information do you get from doing a crash data retrieval?
Our focus.
I don't even know, I just need to know this case.
I don't
need to know what generally happened.
I'll get to this.
Are you going to admit Sergeant Warner as an expert?
Yes, Judge, that's what I was getting to.
Okay.
Just showing his experience, but I'll do it now.
Okay.
At this time, I would move to qualify Sergeant Warner as an expert in crash data retrieval, analysis, and conducting crash data retrievals and analyzing crash data retrieval.
Any objection? Do you wish to void the?
May I ask briefly?
Yes.
Okay. So, Sergeant Warner.
Yes.
I think on direct examination, you said you were not the person that downloaded the information, is that true?
I was present and assisting Detective Besso.
Okay, you say present, where were you at?
Assisting with the plugin of the hardware and software.
Where at?
At our evidence facility, which is located at 6300.
Okay, so what did you collect?
It's a report. All we're doing is downloading what's within the cars, event data recorder, which is where the report would be stored, and using the hardware and software, we plug in and the software allows us to extract a report if one was generated.
Okay.
CAN.
No further questions, Judge.
Any objection to Sergeant Warner be qualified as an expert in crash data retrieval?
No.
All right, so.
Thank you, Judge. Now, moving to this case, you said you conducted or assisted with 2 crash data retrievals at the address on the Kniff address?
Yes, 6300 Connect.
Okay, and you also responded to the scene, right?
I did.
So the cars that you conducted or assisted in conducting these crash data retrievals, are those the 2 same cars that were at the scene?
Yes.
Oh. And may I approach the witness, Judge?
Yeah.
Approaching with people's proposed exhibit 3 and 4. Getting 2 documents, sir. What did I just hand you?
May I look at them?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Judge, for the record, since Corporal Fitzpatrick assessed my name, they had him come back in the courtroom.
Yeah, well, you have any objection?
He does that already.
Yeah, and you said at the beginning.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's been waiting for a while.
All right, we'll go off the record for a minute.
Yeah.
I gotta run downstairs.
Give me 1 second, okay? Coming down. was the last witness, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. Oh, my God, yeah, so it is. All right. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I called it back because that first one told her. This is, downstairs.
They just down there waiting, they have to wait, I told them they have to wait.
Oh, they want, Tyrone Jones paperwork.
Oh.
I just got one.
Here, can you take it to them, because it's in the restaurant. Well, they can come get it.
They can come get it.
Tell them to come get it.
I
I ain't doing that.
don't know, okay, they said, can you put it in the oven? This is their job.
Tell me that I finished the pizza.
Yeah, I know.
You all take your
Catch me.
Oh, okay. What you gonna need? You need some? Here. Okay.
Yes. And tell you, we're still, we're in the paperwork. Mr. Jones. We are still in it. We're still. Here until the time they keep. We won't have to skip. At least the people.
And I'll touch the door.
Sergeant, have you had a chance to look at those two documents?
I have.
And what are those documents that I handed you?
We're doing one at a time.
Starting with People's Proposed Exhibit 3, what is that document?
Exhibit 3 is a CDR crash data retrieval report for a white 2005 GMC.
Okay, and you said earlier that that was one of the cars that you saw at the scene?
Yes.
When you were at the scene, what state was that car in? How did you see it?
I got to see photographs.
Okay. You look at a lot of car crash scenes, sir?
Yes, yeah, 300 last year.
Okay. So that refers to one of the white car at the scene, correct?
Yes.
And does that report accurately reflect the CDR download that was done by Detective Bessa that you assisted with from what date did you do it?
This report was generated or imaged on October 6th, 2020.
Does that report accurately reflect the CDR download that was done on October 6th, 2020 from the white GMC Yukon?
Yes, it's a report.
I move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit 3.
No objection for exam purposes only.
Okay, and with respect to Exhibit 3, what information is provided about the speed of the car prior Well, let me ask you, does that report reference a deployment or non-deployment event?
This vehicle had a non-deployment event.
And what does that mean again?
It means the airbag did not deploy.
Okay. Now, in terms of when that non-deployment event happened, are you able to determine that from the report?
Can I look at the report?
Yeah, absolutely.
Based on the report, it was one ignition cycle. The investigation was one ignition cycle from the time of the non-deployment event.
Okay, so that means the car was, explain what that means.
The ignition cycle is when you turn the key on. Put power to the key, which turns power to the airbag control module. It shows it's a counter. It continues to increase every time you do that.
Okay. So that was done one ignition cycle after the non-deployment event.
Yes, the non-deployment event, if I may, the ignition cycle was 35209. At the time of the investigation, the ignition cycle was 35210.
Okay. In terms of the date and time, are you able to give us that from the report?
Only the date and time that we would have entered of the day of the crash, and then it automatically generates that date and time of when it was, the report was pulled.
Okay. Now, in terms of the speed of the vehicle before the non-deployment event, what are you able to tell us from the report with respect to the speed?
This speed, this report shows a speed at 5 seconds down to 1 second.
Okay. And that's 5 seconds before the event?
Correct.
And the event would be an accident or a crash or some sort of contact, right?
Well, no, the event is all classified based off of airbag deployment or non-deployment, not related to a crash.
Okay. Okay, so 5 seconds before the non-deployment event, what can you tell us from that?
This vehicle report states the vehicle was traveling at 54 miles per hour.
And at 1 second before the non-deployment event, what can you tell us?
This report indicates 0.
And is that something you've encountered before?
Yes.
What does that mean? Can you tell us?
It's the dynamics of the vehicle and the tires being on the roadway.
Okay, so if the tires aren't on the roadway, what's it going to indicate?
This one is showing that there was rotation on the vehicle and the tires are no longer going in a positive direction, giving speed.
Okay, and are you able to determine whether the driver's side seatbelt, the driver's seat seatbelt was locked in or not from that report?
This report indicates if the driver's belt, the status of it, and the passenger belt status.
Okay, what's the driver's belt status?
Buckled.
What's the passenger's belt status?
Unbuckled.
Now, moving to people's proposed exhibit 4, can you tell us what that report is?
This report is a 6-page report for a black 2004 GMC.
And is that the other car that you observed at the scene?
Yes.
And does that report accurately reflect the CDR download that was done on the black GMC?
Yes.
Move to it with proposed exhibit 4.
No, just for preliminary examination purposes only.
Now, in terms of the speed of this vehicle, sir, what does 5 seconds before, what does it show? Or, sorry, let me go back. Is this a deployment or non-deployment event?
This is a deployment event.
Okay, so does that mean the airbags went off in this car?
Yes.
Okay. And the speed of this vehicle, well, how many ignition cycles after the non-deployment or the deployment event was this analysis?
This report was generated, the investigation was done at 40222, and ignition cycles for deployment was at 40220. So there's 2 ignition cycle difference.
Okay. Now, in terms of the speed, 5 seconds before the deployment event in this car, what does that show?
29 miles per hour.
And 1 second before, what does it show?
27 miles per hour.
And I just want to go back because I'm a little bit confused about the ignition cycles, and I apologize. Is that common to see in your investigations that there's 1 or 2 ignition cycles?
I've had more. It depends on how many times that ignition cycle was turned. If the owner, after the incident, was turning it on, it would provide power, which would log a ignition cycle.
Okay. So if the car, just a hypothetical, someone gets into an accident and tries to turn their car on again, is that going to be an ignition cycle?
If the vehicle has power and it's providing power, yes.
Oh. And the fact that there's 1 or 2 ignition cycles, does that indicate to you that these deployment events or non-deployment events happened somewhat recently?
Yes.
Not a good.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon. Okay, so you get this information and you analyze it with, that's.
Detective Vessel then conducted analyzing of this report independently. Which the analyzing of the report, we do a separate form, which is a range of speed based on if there's braking, if there is if there's a 4% speedometer error rate that you add or subtract into it. So there's a formula, a form that he would have filled out for the analyzing of this report.
Okay, wait a minute, wait back up. So this is not your report?
This is the report the vehicle generated.
I understand that. So did you analyze it or did he analyze it or both? Which one?
Detective Vessel analyzed the report.
Okay, that's my error, because I wouldn't have, I thought he was the one that's analyzing the report, but, okay. I'll move on. Expert, you have had a chance to look at it, so what is?
Well, let me step here. He was there when the data was downloaded.
I'm following now, but I have a different understanding in terms of his role. I thought he was the one that downloaded, but he's an expert, so I can certainly still ask him about reports, okay? You've had a chance to review those yourself now, correct?
I just reviewed.
Okay, and you mentioned, let's go first to the white DMC.
Yes.
All right, so we'll talk about the speed. There is an error rate, is that correct?
Yes, a speedometer error rate, which is added and subtracted, is a 4%.
All right, and so in this case, what was the error rate?
Like using calculator or?
You don't have a report?
No, I was given just the CDR report. I do not have an analyzing report.
Give my approach to it.
Thank you.
Have you reviewed that document at all?
I am right now.
No, it does not. Well, where are you, which page are you referring to in terms of your information when you indicated it was 54?
The, off the report,
Oh, okay.
the actual report that came from the vehicle itself,
I see. I'm looking at it.
that would have been page 3.
Okay. So the report that you're reviewing right now, would that have been something that you would have generated that worksheet, or would that have been something that Detective Vessel would generate?
This one here was
Yeah.
generated by Detective Vessel.
Okay. And you're reviewing it now. You're familiar with those types of reports, though?
Yes.
Okay. And so that report reflects what the error rate is?
Yes.
How much?
This error rate, 4% of the impact speed or before speed is 2.16 miles per hour.
Okay, so that takes us down to what error rate at the bottom?
It goes from 51.84, and then for the maximum speed, it goes to 56.16.
You also looked at the black truck, correct?
The report, the CR report for the black truck, I have in front of me.
The one you have in front of you, but it's on the approach with the speed impact worksheet. And let's see.
Yes.
Do that for a moment. Okay. And you also have a speed rate.
Yes.
On that as well. Okay. Now, it's braking on that particular report, correct?
There is braking from the last sample, yes.
Okay, so with the braking now affect the speed?
The braking within this vehicle, the 04, yes. Because of the 1 second lag between the last reported speed and basically zero.
Okay. Now, you said you were out on the scene.
I was.
All right. What was the weather like, if you recall?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Would you have authored individual report yourself?
I believe I authored a report for downloading some green light video.
No.
I believe so.
I need my worksheet back.
Yes, you want them separate? You're welcome.
Just to explain that error rate briefly, you said you gave us 2 ranges for 51 to 56, I believe.
Yes, on the ranges, your speedometer for the 4% can be 4% low or 4% high. So that's what he added and subtracted from the top speed that was provided on that report.
Okay. And I apologize, I forgot to ask this, the braking on the CDR report that was admitted for people who didn't read the white Yukon, is there any indication of braking before this non-deployment event?
There was braking at 4 seconds and 3 seconds.
Okay. Things are nothing further.
Nothing further.
Thank you.
Any further witness?
No further witnesses, Judge.
Any further evidence to be submitted or omitted?
No.
No, okay.
Oh, you said
Then I
I
can
can.
add comment. No, okay, nothing?
Not for the people.
Okay. Defense have anything?
No, Your Honor.
People will move to bind over as charged, Judge.
Oh, can we back up just out? Officer actually admit the exhibit. I know it goes to court.
Yeah, it was a minute, that was.
Okay. This is exhibit A, thank you.
If I may proceed, Judge.
Yes.
Very briefly, the defendant charged with several felony counts, murder in the 2nd degree, OWI causing death, driving while license suspended causing death. Starting with murder in the 2nd, and the child abuse 2nd offense as well. Starting with murder in 2nd degree, the issue here is going to be that the defendant knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death of such harm would be the likely result. Here, Judge, we have evidence that the defendant was driving with a blood alcohol level of 0.33. That's not 1, 2, 3, that's 4 times the legal limit of 0.08, which is an extremely high rate. We also know that she was traveling on Joy Road with 4 kids in the car. Deputy Gibbs said they were unrestrained, turning around in the back seat. We know that she proceeded with, according to Deputy Gibbs, enough time to stop through a red light. Because, I mean, she was drunk, she was intoxicated, highly intoxicated for that matter, with 4 kids in the car. Because of that, a car who had a green light in the right of way flipped the back end of her car and caused her car to flip, ejecting presumably one of the unrestrained passengers of the car out and killing him by blunt force trauma to the head, to the point where Deputy Gibbs said there was brain matter on the street. I think all of those factors combined definitely rise to the level of murder too, and the defendant knows what she's doing when she's driving the car. She knows that the children in the car are unrestrained. She knows that she's drunk because she voluntarily drank that alcohol, and she proceeded to drive with 4 kids in the car, killing one of them. I think this is, for probable cause purposes, a definite question of fact for the trier of fact with respect to murder too. With respect to OWI causing death, Judge, it's the same argument. She was, all of the first elements are satisfied. She voluntarily decided to drive, knowing she had consumed alcohol, taken her BAC, and the fact that she was the driver of the car. Ms. Jones said that she Came to her house at 6:38, saw her on the camera drive away. She was voluntarily driving that car. And with respect to the driving while license suspended, the elements are the same, except that her license was suspended. Detective or Corporal Fitzpatrick testified to that. Going to the child abuse in the second degree, Judge, the first element is that the defendant care, custody, authority, or control over the victim when the abuse occurred. Here, the abuse is her driving intoxicated with 4 children in the car. We know 2 of those children were hers. We know 2 of them were Miss Jones. We know that all of those children were under the age of 18, and that she knowingly, again, the real issue is knowingly or intentionally did an act likely to cause serious physical harm. That's getting behind the wheel of the car with a BAC of 0.33, having drank enough alcohol to get to that point, putting these kids at risk, knowingly or intentionally did that act, and certainly serious physical harm resulted to Paris Jones. But for that element, we don't actually have to prove serious physical harm. It's knowingly or intentionally did an act likely to cause serious physical harm, whether that harm resulted or not. And certainly, Judge, the indication is that it was likely to cause serious physical harm. Luckily, thankfully, more children didn't die. But there's certainly a possibility when you get into that type of accident caused by her drinking and driving. With that, Judge, I would reserve any argument for rebuttal, asking you to find over it.
Ma'am? Thank you. So, this court is very familiar with the standard, and even though it's probable cause, it's still a threshold that must be met. A very sad situation, Your Honor, as you could tell, both the complainant and Ms. Keith were extremely emotional regarding this situation. It's tragic. If we separate out the emotional part of it and look at the legal aspects of it in terms of the elements. Now, she's charged in count 1 with murder second degree. And we know that the 3 states of mind does relate to whether there's an intent to kill, great bodily harm, or an act in blind, kind of willful disregard, the likelihood of the natural tendency of the results that will cause death or great bodily harm, kill, murder 1, Paris Jones, said act committed without premeditation or deliberation. Now, Judge, I understand that the court has a laboratory report, and I understand that the BAC on that laboratory report is high. But what I'm asking the court to also look at is the evidence in terms of a person's ability to, quote unquote, function. So we have first Ms. Jones that says she's at her house, 3 o'clock, 3:30 or so, 3 o'clock, and she doesn't observe any issues with her, feels comfortable enough to allow her children to go with Ms. Keith, and that's something that happens on a regular basis in terms of they taking each other's kids to different places. So Ms. Jones goes on to indicate that when she leaves her mom's house, she's headed home, but she sees Ms. Keith on her security system. And of course, I'll be trying to get that information from the prosecutor. She said that she would turn it over. But while we don't have it to view, we do have her testimony in terms of her demeanor. And I think that becomes very important because, Judge, when you look at someone who would be at a 0.33, it's not consistent with the behavior of Ms. Keith. She says she's in her house, she looks okay, she goes up the steps, she doesn't stumble, she stays there a few minutes and then calls her name out and leaves with the children and gets back in the car. And we know that it's shortly thereafter, unfortunately, it sounds like maybe within 5 minutes, 2 minutes or so, that there's an accident that takes place, and that's what it is. It's an accident. Now, what happens in terms of an accident? We do have Deputy Gibbs. Now, he's traveling also, I think what's important, and that we should also laser in on the fact that he says he's behind his vehicle. He thinks maybe a mile. He's not, quite sure. But he doesn't notice anything.
No, he didn't say he wasn't a mile behind, he said he followed her. She was in front of him for about a mile. He said he wasn't a mile behind her.
No, that's what I'm saying, not a mile behind her in terms of that far distance. I'm just saying in terms of how long it was in terms of him following her, which of course becomes very important because as a deputy, if he's behind the vehicle, he didn't notice, he didn't say that he ever saw this vehicle swerving. He didn't say that he saw this vehicle running any red lights, nothing. And so there's not even established what the speed is on Joy Road. And so to say, that this person is, traveling at a higher rate of speed, all he can do is say the speed that he was actually going at and that he was behind her, but he didn't notice anything until they got to the light. And I pressed him a little bit, and he did say that it was yellow going into red as opposed to the prosecutor trying to feed him into it was, green, then it just turned red. And he says that she's going through at that particular time. Now, Judge, is it a tragedy? Yes, it is. Does it rise to the level of a second-degree murder? No, it doesn't. Let's look further in terms of the condition of Mesquite. So defense exhibit A was admitted. And when you look at the time, we're talking about 1839. Now, we didn't have officer or technician EMT Shelters, that's SHULTERS, Tyler Shelters specified, but the report is admitted as evidence. So, Judge, what does it say? Basically, heart rate is okay, pulse okay, rhythm regular, respiratory normal, blood pressure okay, 4 times 4 in terms of her being oriented to time, place, event, and person. Those things are okay. Number 6 says what? She's obeying commands, the appropriate response to stimuli. And she's given 15 points, a pain score 10. Now, who's under the influence with a 33.33 blood alcohol level that's following the commands of the EMT? You have that's doing everything that they instruct, and it says that it's appropriate. You would think that it would be inappropriate. So you have a security camera that says her behavior is appropriate. You have EMT submit on the scene after the accident that says her behavior is appropriate. Yes, she would have been shaken up to some degree. I mean, her vehicle turned upside down. So somebody says that she's, shaken up. That would certainly be natural for someone that would have, been struck and the vehicle flipped and turned over. But nothing in terms of when she's talking to the EMTs, that they know. So, go on in terms of her vitals, all those things were normal. Her eyes, normal. That's one of the things that when officers stop you, they look at in terms of, the HGN, trying to see where your eyes are going. And I know that there were field sobriety tests, anything like that done, but what I'm saying is that when you look at somebody saying, I saw her at 3 o'clock, if she's okay. Somebody saying, I saw her on the ring camera right before, just interesting that was right before the accident. She's on the court and she appears to be okay. Certainly, this is a lady that has known her for several years. I think she said since high school. And she would know if there was something that was wrong with her friend. And certainly would have probably caused her a great caution and say, oh my God, look like she's falling down, she's up the stairs, or she looked like she's intoxicated. I can't believe that someone would still be standing. If you go on further, when they're on the other parts of the report says that she's sitting on the bench talking to them. So I believe Mr. Giles also said that he saw her talking to the police, not falling down, not sloppy drunk, but she's, standing there talking to the police. So there's a problem somewhere, Judge. And here, in the history section of the Exhibit A, says medical diabetes. And that's one of the reasons why it's on the floor, because there's a problem with people who have diabetes in terms of the weight of blood and the glucose levels. And I know it's easy to say, well, just throw it and let a jury decide. But Your Honor, when you look at this situation, that is not consistent in terms of having a 0.33 with what these other people have said that they actually observed. So obviously there's other things that are going on there. And then it talks about medication. The Lancet says there's some insulin. Is it being taken, not taken? Is it being given? went on the scene, so much that we really don't know, things that we don't know. But here, I submit to the court that the information that has been, the evidence that has been submitted this far does not rise to the level of a one-time and willful disregard for the likely who is the natural tendencies of the act can cause death, great bodily harm, or Paris Jones. Again, very, very sad, but not based upon all the other information that this court has to say that it rises to second degree. We have the Sergeant Morton that's testifying and say, hey, well, this vehicle may have been going 50 something. And I'm not minimizing that in any way, Judge, because if we run lights, if we don't stop in terms of what the evidence is reflecting, not saying it didn't, but we're saying what the evidence that was presented today, then that's something that will result in a civil infraction. This resulted in an accident, and I'm not trying to minimize it. What I'm asking the court to do is to look at it where it's not somebody that's doing 80 miles an hour down Jory Road, in which you say, ooh, okay, well, their behavior was such where it rise to that level. And we know that it's not consistent in terms of saying this is a blood alcohol level when they got diabetes specifically on those forms for a reason, or anticoagulants, because how glucose affects people's blood alcohol levels. And insulin is nothing more than a hormone. Whether you have it or not, those are issues, of course, that can be explored by toxicologists. But at this juncture, Judge, I submit to the court that is insufficient to establish that there was a second degree murder, and I would ask this court to dismiss that particular charge. Operating while intoxicated, if not given a level other than a 0.08, again, hard to tell with this diabetes in terms of what it is. I know that argument is a little, more difficult. License being suspended, cause of death, that was established, although nothing was officially admitted, and then nothing was indicated that she had notice of the suspension. Count 4, these child abuse cases. So when you get to the second degree child abuse, you say the first of the defendant, she had custody or care over the children, either hers or she had care over the children. And then she did some sort of reckless act. And third, as a result, by serious physical harm, that as a result, there was some serious physical harm. Well, it's hard to argue both ways when you're arguing to say that the conduct is reckless on the one hand, and then you argue for a higher standard which takes us to willful and wanton disregard. And so the prosecutor is stretching it now. They want to say, oh, the conduct is this egregious, but yeah, that relates to the children, and it's only an act of recklessness, and there is a charge about recklessness that's causing death or great bodily harm. So I asked the court to find that it says when you look at what actually happened to the children, there was nothing here related to any serious injury other than, the death of Paris Jones, but to the other 3 children, there were no medicals. There were some scrapes, I believe, some cuts or stuff that made.
It doesn't have to be any.
I understand that, Judge, but I'm not making these arguments.
Okay, I just want to make sure we.
When you look at the totality of the circumstances, that's what I'm, pointing out to, as a result, that they suffered, physical harm. And so, and then under the age of 18, I think that's there. But what I would ask this honorable court to find is that they have not met their burden relating to, second degree murder. Certainly the child abuse claims also, I think the evidence is insufficient. And I'd ask this honorable court to dismiss those particular charges.
Yeah, very brief, Judge. I listened to Ms. Burton, and I think what her argument comes down to is that because the defendant's a functional drunk, she should get away with this. Because she didn't appear on her face to be drunk on the cameras, or, the medical records or the defense exhibit, those are medical terms that haven't been explained by a medical professional. We can look at that and determine some things as lay people ourselves, but in terms of what 4x4 means, the court has some experience with that, obviously, but it hasn't been explained. What Ms. Burton's argument comes down to is because nobody saw her acting drunk before, it's not second degree murder. Although someone did see her acting drunk. Deputy Gibbs saw her acting drunk when she ran through a red light and killed Paris Jones. We would ask that this court find over. Thank you.
All right, court having heard the testimony and arguments, classes as follows. First, we have exhibit 1 and 2 admitted, which is the autopsy report of the deceased, Paris Jones, and the lab report from MSP regarding the blood draw, which is 0.32 or 33. Then we heard from Ms. Latanya Jones, who is the parent for Paris Jones. He testified that on October 5th, she was at her home, that she allowed Paris Jones and her other child go with Ms. Keith. Ms. Keith came over, and when she came over, she stayed about 45 minutes. Didn't notice anything unusual about her. She had 6 other children with her, and that she was then took Paris and her 3-year-old Johnny with her when she left. Actually, she had 8 children in the car at that point. That she left around 4:30. Sometime around 6:38, she testified that she was heading back home when she saw a defendant on her house camera. She saw a defendant go inside along with Paris, and that Johnny was, that she could hear him on the system outside playing. And was inside approximately 5 minutes, and saw all 3 get back into the car. She then, driving, heading towards home, she saw the defendant's car flipped upside down. As she went there, talked to a police officer, did not see the defendant or her children. She went to Children's Hospital, where she saw Johnny, her 3-year-old. He was being attended to at the time by hospital personnel. And then she went to Sinai Grace, where she identified her son, Paris, who was deceased. And that was around 10:30 that day. Also heard from Deputy Martez Gibbs, who's the Wayne County Sheriff, testified on October 5th, 2020 at Joy Road. And Stahalan said he was off duty, he was in the car with his girlfriend. The white SUV passed him on Joy. He noticed kids in the car playing with balloons. He said they were kneeling in the back seat and seemed to be restrained. That he was going around 35 miles an hour. And he estimated the white SUV was going approximately 50 miles an hour. As he was coming up to Artesian, they were approaching Artesian with a green light. It turned yellow and red. He was approximately 50, 60 feet away. White SU was approximately, his estimate, 20 feet away. Both of them had the opportunity to stop for the light. The vehicle, the white SUV, was not, other than speed it was going. He testified that it was not driving erratically in any form or fashion, not swerving, etc. That as it went through the light, a black SUV came from perpendicular, clipped the back of the a black SUV came perpendicular, clipped the back of the white SUV, spun it around and flipped over, and the child was ejected from the white SUV. Because the child was, in his opinion, dead. Or the child's head and brain exposed. And he placed his raincoat over the child. He then went to assist the other children in getting out of the vehicle. The police team that's arrived within minutes. And the other 2 children that were outside the car, he got over there that had blood on their faces, but he could not see any injuries. And we heard from Corporal David Fitzpatrick, who testified as being part of the fatal squad who went to the area of Joy and Artesian with a two-vehicle accident, that he noticed beer cans inside the car and outside the car, or beer bottles, excuse me. That he did, that see Paris Jones was still there. He secured the warrant for the blood draw and was there when the blood draw was completed at 9:40, took custody of it and sent it directly to MSP lab. We have the results of the blood draw. He also testified that he checked the lien system, the defendant did not have a license, and at one point she had a temporary learner's permit, but that he was suspended. He also testified that prior to the blood draw, that he talked to the defendant, although it was not gone into detail about medical, and she did not tell him that she had diabetes. We found that out basically today. Then we heard from Sergeant Paul Warner, who is the leader of the fatal squad, who testified he responded on 10/5 to the scene on Joy Road in Artesian, that he was also present when the crash data retrieval was done, and that he was fairly expert in the crash data retrieval, that the Exhibit 3, which is the crash data retrieval for the white SUV. Let me back up. Also, Mr. Gibbs Deputy Gibbs also testified that the defendant was the driver of the white SUV. And there was a non-deployment event so that the airbag did not deploy. He was able to receive the speed approximately 54 miles per hour, 5 seconds before the non-deployment event, and 0 at 1 second. The wheels were off of the ground and the car was upside down. There was an error rate of 2.4 miles per hour. That the driver of the white SUV seatbelt was in fact buckled, passengers were unbuckled. And then Exhibit 4 was the crash data report for the black SUV, testifying that approximately 5 seconds before the event, and it was a deployment event. The airbag did deploy. He was going approximately 29 miles per hour in 1 second when the event was going 20 miles per hour. Issue has 2. Count 1, which is homicide, murder, second degree. The theory is that the defendant did act in a wanton and willful disregard of the likelihood of the natural tendency of said act would cause death or great bodily harm, kill or murder one Paris Jones. It was without premeditation or deliberation. Problem is, I don't see it here, not in this case. Here we have a young lady who has, on the records, has diabetes, that the court takes notice and can take judicial notice that that fact alone would affect the blood draw. Now, to what degree, I'm not speaking to, but it would in fact affect the blood draw. So the court has to look at the other circumstances surrounding this event. That earlier, prior to, it was approximately 3 o'clock, 3:30 or so, when Miss Keith arrives at Miss Jones' home, that obviously she's acting perfectly normal. Miss Jones let her take her kids and the other 6 kids that were with her away. When she sees her at 6:38
coming into her home, she's able to view her on the video. Again, she sees her acting normally, nothing out of the ordinary. There was no testimony to that. When Deputy Gibbs sees her in the, at the crash scene, and sees her talking to the EMS and talking to the police, there's nothing out of the ordinary about her behavior. The officers on scene did not, appears, at least from what I gathered, the totality of everything that happened, did not perform any test in regards to sobriety, field sobriety test, which would tell the court, and the court can draw an inference from that they didn't notice anything that was suggested. The officer in charge arrived afterwards, saw the beer bottles, etc., and said, and he's checking all the squares, so to speak, and he's making sure he does what he's supposed to do. He got a warrant and got a blood draw, and the rest is history. I don't see from here that she did a wanton and willful disregard of the likelihood of what she was doing. The alcohol she drank affected her. I'm not going against that at all, but affected her to the point that she would know that her act of drinking alcohol as a diabetic would and getting behind the wheel of a car would cause this kind of result. No, I don't see it here. I haven't heard it. But it's a count one, court is dismissing. Court, however, is going to bind over on counts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which is operating while intoxicated causing death, operating license suspended, denied, revoked causing death, child abuse, 2nd degree, as to the 4 children that was in the vehicle, and operating while intoxicated, occupant less than, well, those are misdemeanors right here. Court finds that the felonies enumerated in the complaint warrant, except for count 1, did in fact occur in the city of Detroit. Probable cause exists as charged with suspended. Should be bound over the Wayne County Circuit Court. Criminal division arraigned on the information, which will be February 16, 2021 at 9 o'clock.
Judge, and I am assuming Ms. Brennan is on motion here, and that's fine, but I do have one clarification in your ruling that I want to just be clear upon. You said that you're taking judicial notice of diabetes affecting the blood draw?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, how can I not? It's right in the warrant. It is right in the warrant, because in the warrant, and believe me, I've seen thousands of them, you know, in the 35 plus years I've been in this business. You know, it's a factor. Now, how much it affected her and alcohol and affected the numbers and everything, I'm not addressing that. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in looking at the totality of the circumstances, everything, not just what her blood draw was, but how she was acting before and after the accident. No, I can't see that the alcohol itself would rise, and that's the argument you gave. The alcohol itself would rise to that level of wanting willful. So no, I'm not buying willful on that.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you.
For the court, entertain a bond motion.
All right.
Your Honor, Ms. Keith is 34 now, I'm sorry, 34 years of age, yes, 34 years of age. She has 2 children, She resides on Bagley in the city of Detroit with her significant other, who she's been with, I believe, some 10 years, Mr. Pickens. She would return to that location. She's given an opportunity to do so. She is, as a condition of bond, certainly willing to participate in the programming that the court deems appropriate related to any substance abuse. She does, unfortunately, Your Honor, have some priors. So for the prosecutor gets to that point, I want to make sure that the court is aware of that and don't feel that we're trying to hide anything relating to prior OWI from, I believe, Canada. I think that's unresolved from 2019. And then there's one out of Livonia from 2018. Some information that the court was not privy to was the fact that Ms. Keith lost her mom a couple years back, so it's been very, very difficult. I believe there were two other family members very, very close to her as well, and so she has some, issues that she needs to address. But again, the most serious charge, not to minimize the severity. I mean, there's a loss of life, and again, it's really tragic. And she every day feels bad because this is her friend. You look at the relationship between the parties, and so it's a loss to Ms. Jones. But we're asking the court to reconsider the bond.
Yes, Judge, we would object to any reduction in bond, regardless of whether the murder two is still a charge or not. The defendant does have a concerning history, and specifically a history of drinking and driving, not only just drinking and driving, but drinking and driving with kids in the car. On November 24th, 2018, she was stopped in Oakland County, in Southfield, Michigan. The officer smelled intoxicants on the car, and when she was asked where she was going, she said that she was going to pick up her kids. On July 22, 2019, she was stopped again. They did I believe, a breathalyzer test which showed a BAC a blood draw that showed a BAC of 0.356 on that case. On July 22nd, 2019, she was stopped in Livonia, Wayne County, with a child in the car, and they did a breathalyzer test in that case, with her breathalyzer coming back at 0.22. More recently, Judge, on December 27th, 2019, she was initially stopped by EMTs in the city of Detroit when she was sleeping in her car on the side of the road with her daughter, Layla Keith, in the car. The EMTs pulled her out of the car for her safety and the daughter out of the car. She then gets back in the car and proceeds to drive off without her daughter, leaving her daughter at the scene. She then is stopped at the Ambassador Bridge, where she is suspected to be drinking and driving, and they do a test, where again, she has a high BAC. She is clearly a danger to the community, as if one of these incidences wasn't enough to get her into rehab or anything like that. But Judge, with all of that, she is a danger to the community. There are still very serious charges in this case. With that history, we would object to any reduction in bond.
Point of clarification, there's two, not three. One of them stems from the same night. Not according to my client. So, but anyway, and one is too many, Judge. I understand that. I'm not trying to play this number or that number. I'm just trying to get some clarity for the record. But again, we're looking at the case as it stands now. She could certainly be ordered into a treatment program, released into Genesis House, and get whatever issues she needs to have addressed. We have an outbreak of COVID, of course, that's taking place. She does also have young children at home, not to minimize the fact that Ms. Jones doesn't have one of her children, but we're asking for her to reconsider the bond. She does, and of course, she has a very strong support system. Very strong support system. There were at least 10 people that, I believe all those people that are on that screen were here for her. And hopefully they will be willing to assist her and make sure that she gets to court and does what she needs to do to stay on her track.
She's not working.
Oh, Judge, I think I apologize because she does have a history. She was working as a CNA and COVID shut down a lot of stuff, but she does have the ability to return there again if this court wants her to go into some sort of program as a condition. Genesis House is one of the places that she could go and stay there until she completes the program.
Right? I got it. Right now, her bond is 100,000, yeah, cash surety. Court finds that bond is excessive. However, the issue is, I still have to keep foremost in my mind, the safety community. She has some very serious issues. Now, at least one of those other charges is still pending, or more.
So I think they're all still, let me be clear about this. I think the Oakland County charge, one of them was a ticket. The Livonia case, I think, is still pending. Technically, she still has a pending OWI out of Windsor, Ontario, which I don't know when that will get over. There's nobody can go there. And then there is a pending warrant for the same incident that happened in Windsor. That was submitted to the 36th District Court as a misdemeanor contributing to delinquency. The magistrate at that stage didn't sign the warrant, so we're working that out. That will be resubmitted at some point.
If I may shed a little more light on okay.
I'm ready to make a little.
Okay.
Very much, please. All right. We're going to reduce the bond to a 10%. We're going to also add an alcohol tether and a GPS tether. The only place you will be allowed to go is to an inpatient treatment facility. Other than that, she is at home on lockdown. She'll be on house arrest 24/7. Not allowed to leave except to come to court or go to an inpatient treatment facility. All right, but I want both tethers. I want the alcohol tether and I want the GPS tether. You understand that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, I just have one last request. Can I get the order dismissing the murder to county in writing?
Yeah.
Thank you. I can get the dismissal. Oh.
I need a dismissal form of count.
Oh, okay, yeah, gladly.
You taking houses now.
That was 10,000.
Yep.
Let's see. Should he need to sign it? Okay.
All right, everybody that's on Zoom, that concludes the hearing, so I'm gonna close this out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.